Alright, so the new Steadwick defense cast is Queen, with revy and seer. People are doing 14, 15, 16 mil, and the record right now, I think it was Zelenort. I'm not 100% on that though, correct me if I'm wrong, but they got 20 billion. But I've been playing a lot with my new human Sandro adjutant and cooldown reduction, and I got a different strat here. I have not gotten 20 billion. My damage is almost entirely spell damage. No revy, no cyclops, no gorgon, even though I have all of those. And you see it's over 16 billion there. Marksmen did the most damage. They did 500 million. And they're the most. But I did, between Darkest Hours and Implosion, almost 7 billion each. I did over 13 billion. So it's all about cooldown reduction and mana. Here's the build I'm using. Marksmen are really slow to acquire targets, and their projectiles travel slow, but I'm using them for DPS in the boss. They're pure DPS and my best DPS emblems. Waspport's there to spawn bees for the most part, which have a 50% chance to spawn on every attack, so I try and juice his attack speed as much as possible. I can get it from 0.79, or I guess 0.81 now, up to 1.1, so that's more than one attack per second. The attack speed that's how it's measured. If it's 1, that means 1 attack per second. So over 1, more than 1 attack a second. Now the bees help the tank, but also more importantly, every time they die from the human sand adjutant, I'm going to get mana and a third of a second on all my cooldowns. And they last for 40 seconds, and then they blow up. If their timer expires, it's the same as them dying. I've tested that in TG. Lich also, a ton of summons here on her exclusive. She summons a couple bone dragons, and she summons a skeleton every 10 seconds. She also summons skeletons when the target dies, or if a unit dies with human Sandra's global, but that doesn't apply here in Steadwick. Ice Elemental is a little bit of mana. It's also applying a slow for the marksman on the bosses. I have her applying some DE as well. The mana regen's nice. Get more mana regen from the priest. The priest, he gives like a crit buff and all that, but almost all my damage is not coming from units. He gives mana, which is great, but he also gives high morale to one random person every 10 seconds. His row to start and his people around him every 20 or 30 seconds. That's extra good here because my non-necro troops are getting low morale every time I ult. But high morale actually clears the low morale and increases attack speed, so extra useful here, and a lot of mana regen. White also is giving me a lot of mana. Every time I cast an earth spell, I get 5 mana, and all my spells are earth, and my mark spell is passive, using earth mastery. She also stacks a little bit of magic resistance. All necro on their red skill, if they're red, I have such a magic resistance reduction for that. I mean, it's not the greatest, but it's, in this particular instance, it is pretty damn handy. Although I use far fewer necro troops. I used to only Lich, White, and a 3-star DC. For this 4 seconds cooldown reduction on a random spell every time I cast an earth spell. That's the sole purpose that he is here for. Well, and because he's necro, he will also give me mana regen and some cooldown reduction through Sandro's specialties, but he has other skills that actually I don't want him to use. But I'll get to that during the run. I ain't trying to spend all day on the final unit I'm bringing is Devil. He's important. He's got my second best offensive emblems on here. And it's very important that I have his first Star Awakening on the one that does not give him the 5 seconds of invincibility after the jump, and I will explain why here. Actually, I'll show you exactly what I mean here. So these two runs, almost identical. My reason for bringing the Devil and the Marksman is to clear these first 47 waves as quick as possible, because once you get past wave 47, which used to be the final wave, they spawn big massive waves of Gog, or multiple waves at once of Gogs, so you can rack up a bunch of points with my spells on them. Devil on the trash and the Marksman on the bosses are great for getting there as quick as possible, but they're horrible for score. You see here it takes just over a minute, and we're on wave 47. At this point, I don't want the Devil around anymore because I want to actually get the points. You can see both are at about 2 billion. And here at 120, a little over halfway through the match, they'll both be at 4 billion, like within about 0.1%. One's at 40, 50, one's at 40, 55, or 57. But at this point, the Devil dies, and the picture-in-picture when the Devil lives. Now, up to this point, they've been basically equal, running in parallel. We're going to run for 30 seconds, and then I end up quitting the one where the Devil lived, because he's stealing all the kills from me. That's also a big part of why I'm not bringing my Cyclops or my Revy, even though they're both pimped out and do well here, because I want to get the kills with spells. And all these units facilitate me getting to the late waves as quick as possible, and then spamming spells with mana and cooldowns as much as possible. But I want Devil dead as soon as possible after wave 47, because you can see here in the first 100 seconds, the lead was 0.1%, and the next 30 seconds after that, one gets 2 billion. It's a over 100% difference. It's 4 orders of magnitude difference. So the Devil's got to die. It's kind of tricky. Don't bring the invincibility. Don't stun shit, or change the starting position of units around. And at the end of the day, sometimes you're just gonna have to restart. Although usually he'll go down, you just wait, a whole wave will spawn and target him at once, and it's a lot easier than reliably getting the wall to fall if you're using Devil, which I actively want to avoid with this strategy, because there's another unit besides Devil I'm bringing that I need but can fuck me up in 2 ways, actually. Now, DC is integral to this strategy. I'm going to abuse his cooldown mechanic in a particular way I'll get to here next. So I gotta bring him, but he's got his downsides. First of all, he's got the tombstone here. Drops the tombstone when they're at 40% and nukes back row. As I'm going to demonstrate here, that can really set you back on a boss. That's why I took the ES emblems I normally have on him off, because if it does happen, I want it to last as little time as possible. When I was letting the wall fall, my strategy was to have DC in the bottom lane and try and kill the boss as quick as possible before he gets it targeted, or even if he does get it targeted. If the target dies really quick, it doesn't always trigger the skill, which is an issue in real matches when you want it to get triggered, but you know, Necro units don't have to act right, apparently. The other thing they could do and really screw you is another side effect of all the Necro synergy. So the way I'm getting my points here, look at my score, 7.3 billion or whatever. Go 4 or 5 seconds, score doesn't really change much, and then I drop bombs. Boom! I went over this before about Sandra's spells. I'll put it on the screen, but basically, his ult does damage to everybody and puts them in low morale, making them ripe for these big fucking bombs. Look at, been sitting at 8 billion and change for about 7-8 seconds. Bam, 10 billion. I'm getting 2/3 of my damage in the last minute of the fight with the Darkest Hour implosion combo. 11.5 billion now, and I have the whole field almost dead with low morale and ready for that nuke. And then at least 1 billion, maybe 2 points up in smoke, because almost dead units and low morale is also DC's jam. So that's why I'm trying to keep the wall up on this run, which I'm finally going to show you after one last thing here. This is the trick I figured out with DC to give me the last few billion in my score. So when you cast an earth spell, the 4 seconds cooldown you get goes to a spell at random, but it only goes to a spell already that's on cooldown that you can't cast right now. And then 4 seconds can be applied to its own cooldown, but that still gives you a 50-50 chance of getting it on the spell you want if that's the only spell that's not on cooldown. So I've got Dracon here marked with 5 casts of Earth Arrow, and I'm making a couple clones here to start out. I can get 3 up at a time just with regular cooldown reduction and my Human Sandro, the adjutant boost from the summons. So that's 12 seconds, 3 sets of 4 second cooldown that are coming off. Either clone, hopefully, or Earth Arrow, which means I can cast it again. Unfortunately, you only get 5 casts, obviously, because Dracon doesn't have any Earth spells. But you can see here, how many do I got there? I think 1 died, or maybe ran out of time. But I get like 5 or 6 out. Watch, 22 second cooldown, 21. And cast Earth Arrow. Boom! I got 12 seconds off it. It went from 17 to 5. Now, shout out to Profa, Profa. I'm not sure what server he plays on, but on Discord, he was telling me how he wanted to try using the DC domain in Dracon. Apparently, his domain makes Necro troops immune, which I don't really read the domains because I got some kind of fucking diamonds saved up. But, and I was like, yeah, the timing might work, you know. It's kind of because I've experimented with clone a lot. But then I figured out how the cooldown mechanic works, and now I got 6 fucking DCs, although mine don't have domain and aren't very useful. It's a novelty. You could get to jumpstart clones on another unit if you get lucky on the Earth Arrow cooldowns, but it's manual only. It'd be a real pain in the ass to get the AI to even clone the DC, and you sure as hell ain't gonna get the AI to not cast any spells besides clone and timed Earth Arrows. But figuring out how that mechanic worked helped me to get this 16 billion run here that I'm finally showing you. Because before I was just like, okay, casting all my earth spells willy-nilly because each one can give me cooldowns and I have lots of cooldowns of mana, and but really there's a trade-off every time you cast a spell that isn't Implosion or Darkest Hour. Even if it generates 4 seconds cooldown, it also is now another spell on cooldown which might eat future 4 seconds. This is particularly important for a spell like Armageddon, which is A, not Earth, and B, has a really long cooldown. Now I am getting other cooldown reduction too. Don't forget, not only from the human Sandro adjutant mostly, but also every time Sandro casts an ult, every Necro unit has a chance to give him a second off everything. So if only Implosion and Darkest Hour are on cooldown, you cast Implosion, you're going to get 4 seconds back either on the Implosion, like just happened there a couple times in a row, right? So I keep having these 4-second Implosions, which is why I'm not casting anything else. There it just came off of the Earth Arrow. But occasionally, if Darkest Hour is long in its cooldown yet, 15, 20 seconds, and you cast Implosion and the 4 seconds comes off of Darkest Hour, then if both their cooldowns are over, like Earth Arrow's cooldown minus 4 seconds, it's worth casting the Earth Arrow, because if that comes off itself, it'll be on cooldown before the other ones are ready to go, so it won't cost the cooldown from them. And if it puts the cooldown on Darkest Hour or Implosion, that's a bonus in the short term, and you cross your fingers and hope it works out. Obviously, you're not going to be able to cast perfectly. I also, later in the round, sometimes cast Earth Arrow on like a drill to stop it from getting the wall, but for the most part, the summons will keep them busy, and the archers will snipe them pretty quick because the gogs are ranged and won't move up as in front, which is nice for blasting them with these nukes. Now, as you can see here, we passed wave 47, so I want the devil to die as soon as possible. We've used up about half our time. We're only at 2 billion. So we've got 14 billion to go. Now, for the first half of the fight, the milestones that I look for to gauge if I'm on track are not based on score, they're based on time. I want to see Bone Dragon before 2:30 on the timer, ideally like 2:33, 2:34 even, and Behemoth at 2:08, I think is the highest I've gotten it, but 2:06 is what I like to see. And then the final wave, I want dead at 1:50 at the latest, at which point then I start looking for the devil to die. My next milestone is kind of points and time. By 1:30, I want the devil dead, and I should ideally be sitting around 4 billion at that point, although my point, that's the halfway mark, and the first half doesn't really matter so much. And now the focus shifts to racking up points. I used to want to have 6 billion by a minute left. Now I'm shooting for 7 or 8, and then it used to be 10, but now shooting for like 11 with 30 seconds left. Things to watch out for at this point are drills knocking the wall down, so DC comes out. They usually do, but not till the very end. And getting as many alt cooldowns as possible for these 1-2 blasts. Now, if you don't have Earth Mastery, I've done fairly well, equally as well with Death Ripple, and it helps to kill the devil some. It also kills the Marksmen and stuff, which could be useful because they're still not getting very many points, but I think these waves spawn more at one time, but if you just kill the gogs and the bosses get piled up too much, I don't think more gogs will spawn, so keeping them around helps. My Earth Mastery's got room for an improvement too. And then, of course, there's a lot of RNG from summon cooldowns and the like, but you can mitigate a lot of that, and there isn't a whole lot of variance. I mean, I don't get 16 billion every time, but I'm not generally getting under 12 or anything. You could see those runs I did demonstrating with the devil. I mean, those were manual runs, and they were within 0.1% after a minute and a half. And as I mentioned in the beginning, Cass and Revy and Seer is probably the best comp right now. They have the best score of the 20 million. Cass is similar to Sandra in some ways. She gets mana from her faction. She has a global damaging ult. But most people ain't going to beat this with anybody. And even though most people don't have level 40 human Sandro adjutant, I think it's cool to, show unorthodox strats. And DC himself, the 3 stars is all you need for the cooldown reduction. So, there's stuff to play around with there too. And I hope you enjoyed it. I've been having a lot of fun playing around with cooldown reduction in a lot of ways. And I do have the guild boss video coming together. It's pretty epic undertaking, but these videos take, actually I'm going to show really quick. This is what this video looks like. This is the video, and it's almost at the end here. I say I'm a lot more, and I edit that shit out. I edit lots of shit. See all this? My phone can't even handle it. I do it all on mobile too. I got it all zoomed out. This is like, this one was already done. This one was done separately. It looked like all this shit here. And editing the speed and adding text and cropping it, and so on and so forth, and cutting out all my lexical fillers and some of the cuss words. I mean, this shit's pretty time consuming. If you're not, if if you're wondering why I'm not putting out content, it's because I'm working on it. I'm working on it, I promise. And then see, now I gotta add this as a clip right here at the end. Oh, it's fucking weird. It's trippy. It's meta. It's like looking into a mirror with a mirror behind you, saying Candyman or something. Anyway, I think it's turning out to be a pretty nice video here for y'all. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching. We'll finish it out here. At the very end, you want to be ready to bail out if you're not getting the score you want. I don't need this much. My boy Subtle. He's got a good cast team, so he can do 11, 12 million like before, where no one could touch me on my server. Shit, I had the highest in global, breaking my own records, but it's nice to have a little change of pace here, and pretty solid score, over 16 billion, and Marksmen are my MVP with 500 million. Devil's second with 300 million. It's all about them spells, baby. People say spell damage is dead and Necro is dead, not just undead. Well, they still live in Steadwick. Thanks for watching.